Hello, hello. Welcome to the next episode of my travels. It's just after lunchtime and I have just arrived in Mesa Verde National Park in Colorado. I've come up into the park, and as soon as you enter the park you start climbing, and with this view. With the snow-capped mountains in the distance there. Quite exquisite. I'm going to do this, by the way, is what's called the Mancos Valley, Mancos, and it's the gateway to Mesa Verde National Park. And this park is one of the oldest. It was established in 1906. But they knew people wouldn't come here unless there were roads up the mountain, so they immediately started building roads. And it's supposed to be very, very cool. Now, up top inside the camp there is a campground, which I was planning on staying at, but it is closed for the season. There is, however, dispersed camping, free camping, down below on BLM, Bureau of Land Management land. So I'm going to do a short hike, and then I will go down and find a spot for the night. It was about 4.5 hours of driving to get here today, so I'm not going to do too much now. So I'm starting my visit to Mesa Verde with a shortish 2-mile trail, 1 mile each direction. It's called the Knife Edge Trail, and it follows the original road into the park. It turned out to be too difficult to maintain, so they built a new road, and this became more of a hiking path. So it's supposed to end at a really spectacular viewpoint of the valley. So sounds good. The view is definitely getting better. I think this is a good hike to start my visit here. It's pretty flat, it's not too long, there's a nice cool breeze blowing, and the view, well, what do I need to say about this? So this is what I'm walking on. It used to be the road on the side of the mountain. This was the road until 1957 or something, when they created a new one and built a tunnel, it's yada yada yada. But before then, people who wanted to come up by car, because it was only wide enough for one vehicle, they had to call park headquarters to get clearance to make sure that there was no traffic coming down. Yeah, it definitely couldn't have been fun driving along here, along this road in the olden days. Quite the drop off here, and of course always a temptation to be distracted by the view. It is quite chilly here, and obviously this side of the mountain doesn't get much sun because we have remains of snow down at the bottom here, and also the path is pretty muddy, even though I don't think it's rained here for a while. I'm going to be doing tonight what's called camping, I hope, which means I won't have electrical hookups and all that. I have heating, but it's limited when you're not connected to electricity. Not limited in how hot you can make it, but in how long you can run it for. So I think it's, first of all, I'm going to be a lot lower than this, so it should be quite a bit warmer. And if not worst case scenario, I will run the generator. So I'm now 1 mile in, and I'll do a slow panoramic turn so that you can appreciate or get a bit of the view that I've got from up here. But actually, come with me, we'll go down here a little bit, where the view is even better. There's just a big boulder in the way. Take a look at this. Just beautiful. Just beautiful. This is absolutely the ideal hike for me today. Not strenuous and just gives you a good feeling. And that good feeling is going to go on and help me find what got cut off at the end of that last clip was, I said, I hope the good feeling will help me get a really great campsite. You'll see in a second, well, a few seconds, that there are clouds in the distance, but I don't think it's going to rain. And if it does, I'm not sleeping in a tent. And I've already been to the ranger station, and there are a couple of non-hiking options which look very interesting, which I'm going to do whether or not it rains. But I hope to get in a couple of good hikes as well. Imagine it'd be really nice to come here in the summer when it's all green. But on the other hand, it might be really, really hot here. So I don't know what's best. It's weird how the brain works. You all know I have an aversion to heights. Now this trail is called the Knife's Edge. In places you're right next to the slope. But this slope, I mean, if you fall down here, you probably kill yourself. I mean, the path is about 2 yards wide, and then there's still a little bit of brush here, and then the thing. If this was sheer, in other words, straight down, I would be incredibly nervous. But for some reason, because it's a slope, it doesn't worry me. I mean, if I were to slip off, there's no way I'd be able to stop myself. But it's just weird. This doesn't worry me. If it were from the edge straight down, I would be keeping as far to the side as possible. Hey, so I have found my spot for the night. I am just off a little side road on BLM land, Bureau of Land Management. It's free, it's legal, it's fairly quiet. There are cars coming past, but there are no trucks allowed on this road, so that's a good thing. Last night, by the way, I parked in the parking lot of a Walmart store. Walmart, for those of you who don't know, is who are not American, is a big supermarket chain. If you think I'm nuts, what are you doing sleeping in the parking lot of a supermarket? It's quite the done thing in the States of campers and RVers. When I woke up this morning and I took that video shot of the sunrise, I actually took a walk around and I counted, and there were 17 RVs, camper vans, in the parking lot. Walmart stores are starting to not allow it because of local ordinances and putting up signs, no overnight parking, but there were no such signs at this parking lot and nobody bothered us. It was fine. Anyway, where I am sleeping tonight, let me just give you a view out the window. It's kind of pretty. You got the road coming past. You can see there's a car coming along there, but hey, it's free. Obviously there's no electrical hookup or it, but that's fine because by now, after nearly 2 months on the road, I can't believe it, I know how to manage my electricity and water and all the rest of it. So all is good. I'm sitting here relaxing and editing the video, and that's it. See you guys tomorrow. Good morning. So last night I did find a good site to do dry camping or dispersed camping or boondocking, whatever you call it. When I woke 6 o'clock this morning, it started raining and I was parked on sand. So I quickly packed up and moved off because I didn't want to get stuck. Anyway, the rain wasn't so hard. It is now 9:30. I'm back in Mesa Verde Park, and I've stopped at an overlook looking out over the Montezuma Valley. really great view from here. Zoom out a little bit. The valley below and Mesa Verde, the high ground that I'm on, used to be part of the land of the Pueblo people, Pueblo, and they were here between approximately 600 and 1300. About 35,000 people, they estimate, lived in this area. I'm going to take a look. I'm going to do things a little bit differently today, because just take out the last, if you look behind me, whoops, it's still overcast. Might get a little bit more rain, but it's supposed to clear up. So I'm going to actually take an audio tour of some of the dwellings in the mountains, which should be pretty cool. So that will be my next stop. Time to learn something. And then afterwards, hopefully it'll be a bit warmer, drier, I will do a hike. I want to share with you some of the views that I'm getting as I drive to the point where I'm doing that audio tour. It's just stunning. I'm on the first stop of this audio guided tour. It's actually very cool so far. It's been narrated by a woman who's a descendant of the people who lived here. She's a Native American, and apparently this is where her ancestors lived. This is something called a pit house from about 600 years ago, the year 600. They dug down, put a roof over it, and then you entered through a ladder in the roof, coming down from a hole in the roof. And this was like a main room, and then you would have one or more, perhaps smaller rooms attached to it. The point of digging down is that the earth insulates, and it helped to keep them cool in summer and warm in winter. Stopped here, what looks like the face of a cliff, but when you zoom in, you look carefully, you see that these were actually dwellings built into the side of the cliff. It's steep below, it's steep above, and there are approximately 60 rooms here, or there were, with 8 sort of kiva, or family unit type of thing, where extended family was called a kiva. And that tower there is the tallest archaeological structure in the park. How did they get down to or up to? this. There are handholds dug into the cliff faces, and they also used ladders. As time went on, these pit houses changed as people started living above ground, but the underground rooms, their use still continued. They became deeper, and they were used probably for ceremonial purposes. This one must be a good 8-10 feet deep, and you can see there that hole. That's a ventilation shaft with the exit over there to bring air down, or maybe to allow smoke to go up. So, an interesting way of life. Wow. This canyon is described by the audio guide as downtown Mesa Verde. I'm going to try and focus in on why. In that canyon, under that arch over there, you had what's called a cliff palace. That was obviously somebody high up, or high ups in the community, etc. If we pan across, you miss it the first time you look, but in that gap there was a 20-room dwelling in there. If we scan across that way, we see, over there was what they call Sunset House. Very, very cool. I'll tell you later what happened to these people. We'll call it a cliffhanger. Sorry, I couldn't resist. So this one has a giant kiva here, and it was probably used for some sort of ceremonial purposes, dancing, religious purposes, who knows. You have big rooms next to it as well. They said when they dug this up, excavated, they didn't find any evidence of domestic use. So this was probably some sort of public building. And you can see multi-layers. Check out that there. You can make out over there the holes in the rock. Those were hand and foot holes, so that you could climb up and down between the two different layers. And at the very back there, those were probably some type of storerooms in there. Well, I must say this guided tour is very, very cool. The woman who narrates it really succeeds in bringing the place to life, which is awesome. This is probably the best view of the largest of all the cliff dwellings. The Cliff Palace, it's called. I mentioned it earlier, I showed it to you, but here you get a much better picture of it. And apparently there are over 50 rooms, 150 rooms here, and it was lived in for about 100 years. So, really, really impressive. I would love to be able to go and visit them, to actually go into one of these. And apparently in the summer, spring and the summer, there are ranger-led tours down there, but nothing at the moment, and you can't go there by yourself. Oh well. The advantage to coming now, as opposed to in the summer, is I'm the only one here. At some of the stops, there's been one other per car that I've seen, but that's it. It's great. No problem finding parking. No annoying kids. It's great. Oh, I don't need these anymore. The audio tour is finished. It was really good. So I learned a lot. I didn't put too much in because a lot of the archaeological stuff, unless you get the whole story, it's kind of doesn't fit anyway. So cool facts, cool stuff here. Very good. Hey, so I did that guided, narrated tour with you drive. It's like a big loop. You're driving there like 10 stops. I thoroughly enjoyed it. We went to the camper, drove to the start of the trailhead, which is all of about a 5-minute drive. Made some lunch, tuna sandwiches, and hearty, thick vegetable soup, which is great because it's kind of chilly. And now I started my hike. This hike is down into the canyon, and there are two possibilities. It's a loop, but there's a loop and a loop. So it might end up being 3 miles, 5 kilometers or so. Might end up being just over 5 miles, about 8.5 kilometers. We'll see how I feel. In the meantime, it's nice and cool. You can see the damage from the fire years ago. I mean, the undergrowth has recovered, but the trees, undergrowth and the bushes, but the trees, not so much. So what I'm doing is called the Spruce Canyon Trail. So up here, well, I started over there, and down into the canyon, down, back here, and then over here, if I want to, there's this trail here to a petroglyph, and then come back up again. So anyway, we'll see how I feel, whether I'd add on that extra bit or not. Good view of the canyon from here. I'm going to be going down to the bottom there, which is fine. The only problem is I then have to come up again. Oh well. I'm now at the bottom of the canyon. Took about 20 minutes of downhill to get here. I'm in the sun at the moment. There's no wind. It's quite a bit warmer than it was up top. We're very exposed and there was a chilly wind blowing. The 20 minutes of downhill will probably translate into 40-50 minutes of uphill at the end, but deal with that when I get to it. In the meantime, this is great. The walk is taking me through a very pretty canyon bottom. This is good. Yesterday I just did a short hike, so today to do something more serious is good. I think tomorrow is going to be another travel day, so it's good to get in a decent hike today. Started climbing out of the canyon here again. Really pretty view looking down. I'm just a little worried that if I add on the second bit, I'm going to have to go down again. So make a decision when I get to the turning point. So I decided to do the add-on, and there's quite a bit of clambering, but I'm just below this overhang here. Check out the colors in this rock. It's one solid rock, all the different colors. Pretty neat. After quite a bit of a climb, I'm now walking on a fairly level bit near the top of the canyon. The path's not that smooth. You've got to do a fair bit of clambering over rocks and stuff, but it's more or less level. See, it's a long way down to the bottom of the canyon. So I sincerely hope that I don't have to go all the way to the bottom before coming up again, because I'm nearly at the top, walking, as I said, level on what is not the best path in the world. But I am doing the It's basically a second trail which I've combined into one. So I'm just really hopeful that, that I don't have to go all the way down. Let's hope for the best. I think it's pretty neat the way this is eroded. You've got like a little hole in this rock here, and you've got like a little room inside. Wow, pretty neat for selfie mode. And some of the walls on this route, and specifically one place I'm going to, although this isn't it, there are petroglyphs. I don't know how old they are, if there's been any attempt at interpreting. On the way out of the park, I'll stop at the ranger station and try and find out. So in the end, I did the 5 mile, 8 kilometer hike. It was not an easy hike. There were parts where I had to scramble. I had a total of 1,400 feet of climbing, which is a lot. It took me 2.5 hours, but it was good. I'm pleased I did it. So that's it from Mesa Verde National Park. This is my only stop in Colorado. Tomorrow I'm heading down towards Nevada, and I'll see you in the next video. I've enjoyed sharing this with you. This was a short stop, only 2 nights, 1.5 days of touring, but it was worth it because I think it was something totally different. So all the best, and see you next time.